There's 32.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, 1, 2.
I will call the April 23rd, 2025 Planning Commission meeting to order. Ms. Rambo, would you please call the roll?
Jade Castillo.
Here.
Jim Jackson.
Here.
Pete McGorry. David Miller.
Here.
Steve Pajali.
Here.
Connor Whalen.
Here.
Mike Zuloff.
Here.
Can I get a motion to excuse Mr. McGorry? He
Not
did,
necessary, but sure, if that's what you want.
he did call in.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay, approval of minutes from the February 26, 2025 meeting. If you will recall, we didn't have a meeting last month, so we are entertaining the February minutes.
Motion to approve.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? I would just like to note that I had a call from a concerned citizen that watched the meeting and made a couple of observations about Mingus Meadows. And I wonder if Ms. Blair would clarify a few things. What he wanted to know was in the minutes, it said something about the road and 20 feet. He thought it should have possibly been 200 feet.
Yeah, I'll mention, so it reads approximately 20 feet in front of Lot 2, because the extension of Ferndale Drive starts where the current stub is, all the way past Lot 1, and then into Lot 2, about 20 feet. The exact measurement is very clearly in the construction documentation that was attached to the agreement that City Commission approved. So the exact measurement is clearly defined. I did not look at that. I don't have it in front of me. I think it's somewhere around 120 or 140 feet.
Okay.
Are we saying the minutes are correct?
The minutes are correct. They reflect what was written in the staff report.
The minutes are correct, and the reason I bring this up is just so it can be noted in these minutes for the record, these couple of questions I have.
For everyone's information, they've already started building.
Yes.
Mingus has already started building.
I think that was his concern, and that leads me to the next question. That's a great segue, Mr. Jackson. He noted that Mr. Mingus said it would take 2 years for him he felt to complete this project, and he was questioning me on whether or not he could wait to put the road in later, or if it has to come in now.
Public Works staff is in charge of the road coordination part of that. There is some advantage to the road not being there because he's driving construction vehicles in and out. So he's in communication with the Public Works staff, and they'll be coordinating the timing of the road. The agreement that he signed with City Commission says that he has 2 years to complete the road.
Okay. And the city commission has approved that. So,
Correct.
So he can move forward in that respect. And I imagine if there is an issue with the road not being completed, but the structure is, we do have the occupancy permit as a check and balance on that.
Right, there's no utilities right now. He has to run the main water line in order to get water to his house, for example. And the occupancy permit can't be granted unless there's access to the property on a public highway.
Okay. Thank you for clarification on those questions. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we have a public hearing, 905 East Perkins Ave. Any signs?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this application was submitted by Brady Signs Company on behalf of St. Stephen's United Church of Christ of Sandusky, Ohio, for property they own at 905 East Perkins Ave, parcel number 57-68014.000 for a conditional use permit pursuant to section 1143.06C to replace the existing analog sign face with a digital message board in the same location. The next slide, you'll see on the left-hand side a zoning map which shows this, this property is split zoned on the southern two-thirds portion approximately is PF, Public Facilities, and on the northern remainder there is R160. However, although it is split zone, on this you see on the right-hand side, it is all one property. This is the existing sign, a street view photo taken from East Perkins Avenue. And as the applicant indicated, it is approximately 10 feet from the East Perkins Ave right-of-way, and that's, I'm assuming, measured from the leading edge of the sign. Staff analysis, 3 main points. First, staff notes that such signs have the potential to create objectionable or hazardous conditions for pedestrians, auto drivers, and from residents in adjacent districts, which there is a development to the east here. Second, staff further notes that the proposed signage does not exceed the limit of 40 square feet in the public facilities zoning district, so that's good. And third, all other zoning code requirements would be met by the proposed digital message board sign. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for approval with the following conditions. 1, all applicable permits are obtained through the building department, engineering department, and any other applicable agency prior to construction. 2, the brightness shall not impose hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, nor a nuisance to surrounding property owners. 3, the sign follows ODOT safety standards for minimum timing of image display or a 10-second minimum display time per image, whichever is longer. And 4, and finally, no animations, videos, or illuminations with flashing. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Is there anyone that would like to speak on behalf of this application? And do we have to swear them in, Mr. Hastings?
Yes, public hearing.
So before you speak, I'll have to ask you to raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So help me God.
Yes. Ryan Brady, Brady Signs, 1721 Hancock Street. So yeah, Adam did a pretty good job kind of explaining the overall scope of work for the project. But the church is looking to modernize both with the new digital sign application as well as updating the branding on the sign as well. Some new colors and some new brand standards are being reflected in the static portion of the signage project. In terms of the digital sign, in terms of brightness, that concern is warranted. The unit does have an auto dimming feature. So at noon with peak daylight, it will be at max brightness. And then at 10 o'clock when it's pitch dark outside, it'll dim down to about 5% of that same brightness. So it has an auto dimming feature. If we were to find that that's still too bright, you can manually override it through the software as well to bring the brightness down.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Brady? Mr. Miller?
Well, this is a small point, but I saw in the project description, the existing sign is described as an analog message board. It's clearly just the numbers you put in there and slide around. Is that the typical meaning of an analog sign?
I don't think we described it as analog. I think that may be a staff description. Is that correct?
Yeah, in other jurisdictions, it's been defined as manual change copy sign, as the movable numbers are the copy or the written text. So that was my interpretation, but wasn't meant for anything different than contrasting from digital.
Well, and thank you. I went and looked at it close up to see where the key unlocks the front so you can open it and change the lettering around. And I thought about my dear old dad in the day going out to change the message board on the church sign in the middle of winter and stuff. That it really is an outdated technology in this era to think about going out there in the wind and rain and cold to try to change those letters to make it all nice and neat of what next Sunday's service is going to be about. That's my comment.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Mr. Brady? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, can we bring it back to the table?
Yeah, bring it back to the table. Mr. Zuloff.
I just wanted to comment that I'm glad we're following the practice of the 10-second rule and so forth. I don't see a problem with the redundancy. Just people should understand that even a dissolve or a flash between, you can go 10 seconds and then some flashy stuff, and then another 10 seconds would not be in compliance, and they're making that pretty clear here. So, just so people understand that. We've had cases where people were not in strict compliance, but it wasn't causing a problem, but at least we have a leg to stand on if somebody goes crazy with this stuff. So I think we're doing a good job covering that. We've been doing it for a long time. We probably have to figure out what analog and digital means. I mean, you can, if we ever get around to, ensconcing this in an ordinance, I mean, these days, an LED lamp is arguably, well, certainly electronic, right? It's got all kinds of stuff in it. But we can cover that another day. So I would, if nobody else has anything, I'd move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Zuloff. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Whalen? Ms. Ramble, would you please take the roll?
Mike Zuloff,
Yes.
Connor Whalen,
Yes.
Steve Pajali,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Jim Jackson,
Yes.
Jade Castile.
Yes. One point of order, did that motion include the staff recommendations?
Yes, of course, yes, that's what I said, right? Motion to approve the subject to the staff recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Zuloff, for clarifying. Thank you, Mr. Brady. Okay, the next item is new business, proposed text amendments.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, we have brought forward a proposed update to the Planning and Zoning Code, Section 1161.03, Establishment of the Landmark Commission. This was from a recommendation that was moved and approved by the Landmark Commission to allow up to 2 members of that commission to reside outside the city of Sandusky limits if they have expertise in the disciplines to be represented on the commission, which I'll explain. A little bit of background, our current ordinance requires the Landmark Commission consist of 7 members. Also, the Landmark Ordinance lives in the Planning and Zoning Code, which is why this is in front of you today. It describes the membership to be 1 city commissioner and 6 citizens of the city. And it also requires that in order to maintain our local government, our certified local government status, 2 members of that board shall have expertise in architecture, history, planning, archaeology, or related field to the extent available within the community. And with the Landmarks Commission, that's evaluating the design of any kind of changes to the exterior of our buildings that are local landmarks or within a historic district. So that expertise is very valuable when analyzing those cases. So as I mentioned, that expertise adds a lot of value, and we've had a challenge in finding members within our community that live in the city of Sandusky with that expertise. I've done a lot of phone calls and questions looking for an architect in particular that lives within the city of Sandusky and without finding one for the last year or so. And so the Landmarks Commission directed staff that we research the feasibility to update those requirements and make it a little easier to have that expertise and draft that amendment. The research that we conducted, we looked at 10 other communities that are smaller cities that may have similar challenges, whether they permitted their landmarks commissioners to live outside of the city. A few of them didn't even require that the members be city residents. Several did require that members be city residents, and the majority had, yes, they should be city residents, but there's also some exceptions to that. So we use those examples to draft the changes. What we have brought forward is a change to the ordinance, and this is the exact wording, to essentially allow up to 2 of those board members to live outside city limits if they also have the expertise we need and have a preference to residents, city residents. We also have that they are, if they live outside the city, that they be property owners or business owners within city limits or have a substantial connection to the city as defined by the appointing body. So if city commission believe they fit that requirement of having a substantial connection to our city, then they could be appointed to the board. So in this way, it would be, 5 of those members would be residents of the city, 2 could be residents outside the city if they have the expertise and they have that substantial connection to the city. So there would never be a majority of non-city residents on the board. So we have brought this in full draft. It was recommended by the Landmarks Commission on their regularly scheduled meeting on March 21st, 2025. They moved to recommend, Planning Commission moved to recommend City Commission to adopt the proposed amendment to section 1161.03 of the Planning and Zoning Code. And with that, I would love to entertain questions. Pass it back to the chair.
Thank you, Ms. Blair. Questions or comments, Mr.
Yeah,
Jackson?
I have a question. Reasonably, as far as the distance is concerned, the cities that could be considered nearby would be like Norwalk, Bellevue, Port Clinton, and these are much smaller cities than Sandusky. Do you actually think the mining of trying to find these individuals is going to be easier in these communities than Sandusky?
I think there's quite a few folks that live in Perkins that do business in Sandusky or grew up in Sandusky or have their business, own a business in Sandusky. The one example, and I hope he wouldn't mind I would say his name on the record, because Mr. Dan Frederick has an architecture business on the corner of Adams and Wayne Street. And he lives in Milan, and we had a conversation, I think Mr. Oakes had a conversation with him last year, like, wouldn't it be great if we could ask you to be on our landmarks board? Because he owns a historic property, he has a business, he has expertise in historic architecture, but we couldn't actually invite him to be on the board because he lives in Milan. So that's just one individual example.
Any other questions for Ms. Blair or comments?
Yes.
Mr. Zula.
Sorry about that. Lost, oh, here we go. I was having trouble. I lost my page here. Tell us what if you would, Ms. Blair, what the thinking is on, did I hear nearby community and what that?
So if there was, we did research on nearby communities, but there's no mention of nearby communities in the proposed ordinance. It reads, I can flip it back to it.
Okay, maybe that's it.
Okay.
Because I was hearing nearby, there's no such requirement that it be a nearby city.
No, but we do require in-person attendance to the meetings.
Of course. All right, and the reason is, and I imagine you've reviewed the prior ordinance before this change as well, right? This ordinance was changed, or the present ordinance was changed to eliminate the possibility of members residing outside the city. You know that, right?
I am aware that it was changed at one point. I didn't review that specific code. My understanding was that it was the citizens of the city that was added at that time.
Yeah, it's not terribly important, maybe we can, rather than waste the board's time, I can ask you some questions afterwards if it's okay with you instead of, okay. Very good. Is there any chance that we have someone in mind at this time?
I mentioned Mr. Frederick. I think he would be a great fit. I would reach out to him immediately if this was passed. But we would, of course, welcome other suggestions. I know Mr. Griffiths has an architect friend in mind, a woman that he knows that rehabs historic homes and thought could bring some expertise on the residential specific historic renovation. I've asked, Greg Schmidt I asked him he moved his architecture business here. Hey, do you live in Sandusky? Does any of your architects live in Sandusky? No, they don't.
How many vacancies are we looking at right now?
There's 2 open seats right now, and that is,
Right.
we've kind of held in hopes that we potentially could get that expertise.
Well, I think this is very wise. We've actually, lost at least one very qualified person. Maybe they want to apply again. So one other question, perhaps for the law director, to clarify. I've always felt the term citizen was fuzzy. Help me out here. Is citizen gone now? Or is citizen still in here as a?
Our different boards and commission use different terms, which have different meanings. Citizen is a legal term.
Yes.
Some of our boards say residents, which is a broader term than citizen.
Okay, but so still seeking clarification there. Resident is broader than citizen, or see I wondered if a citizen of Ohio has, as I remember from another meeting, had a clear, a legal definition, but I wonder if the same principle applied locally. One could argue that, if someone does business in the city, they're part of the business community, part of the city community, but happen to live across the line, are they a citizen of Sandusky or not? Does citizen mean resident? Is resident a subset of citizen or vice versa?
Vice versa. Citizen is a subset of resident.
All right, so for regardless of the level of jurisdiction, a citizen is always a resident, but a resident might not be a citizen.
Correct. And an even more restrictive term sometimes used is elector,
Elector, someone who votes.
someone who is registered to vote.
All right. And what would be a circumstance of a resident who is not a citizen?
Someone who came from another country who's not a citizen of the United States, but could still be a
Okay.
resident.
All right. So if you're, right, okay, so if you're a resident, lawful resident alien, you're not a citizen of the United States, you're not a citizen of the state, you're not a citizen of the locality. Okay.
But you don't get to vote in any election.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Zuloff, that clarification. Mr. Jackson,
Yeah, I have a question. If an individual wanted to make dramatic changes to a building or a home, wouldn't they have to get architectural approval to make major modifications in a home or a building?
So the landmark ordinance specifically is connected to design guidelines that keep the historic integrity of the structures that fall within its review. So it's not about the building code, whether it's architecturally safe or structurally safe. It's about what it looks like. It's about the historic character. So somebody can't, if it's a landmark property, you can't put vinyl siding on it, for example. You'd have to keep a historic wood or replace it with some other historically
Absolutely.
appropriate material.
It's caused trouble.
Ms. Castillo.
Yes, you already kind of covered this, but I want to make sure that I'm clear. Do I understand correctly that the expertise, does it have to be involving or in local areas, or could it be expertise in California and now they moved to Milan and they own a property in Sandusky? Or do they have to say, like, does it have to be, okay, I was on this commission in Milan for this long, so I actually have expertise dealing with this specifically with regard to like a local economy or city?
Got it. It's much more broad than that. So it just reads that they should have expertise in the discipline of architecture, history, planning, archaeology, or related disciplines.
Okay.
So it's pretty broad.
Okay, just because different cities run in different ways and expertise somewhere may not be pertinent here, that's why I asked for clarification.
Yeah, one of our former commission members had a construction company in Seattle, and so she understood development and construction
Right.
in general, and operated in a different state, but was a resident of Sandusky.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Whalen?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment here before we get too far, because it sounds like more people than I anticipated are potentially thinking of voting for this. I would hope that we would recommend against this change in language, because the point of citizen boards is that they're citizens. I think that there are architects that live in the city. As Mr. Jackson said, every one of these applications that comes in front of the board that has structural aspects has an architectural stamp involved, so there'll be an architect here for that as well. To me, I think that the benefits of having an actual architect on there are negligible. I think that we could get them locally, but ultimately the Landmark Commission is just granting certificate of appropriateness. I'm kind of insulted that we don't think that we can find enough qualified people inside the city of Sandusky to be qualified to grant certificates of appropriateness with lawyers present. I mean, the idea of putting non-residents on resident boards to do the voting is a slippery slope to me. I mean, and this is very broad. We could have 2 history professors that live in Overland and own a VRBO together here, be our landmark commissions and meet this qualification. I see no reason why we would recommend opening this up, and I'm happy to lead and make a motion that we recommend against if people are so inclined.
Any other questions or discussion from around the table?
Well, through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Whalen actually hit on something that I was going to ask like a question. Well, a professor in history, would they?
Forgive me for half a second, was that a motion?
Mr. Zulo.
No, point of order.
No, it was
Point
not
of
a
order
motion.
is all it's about.
I'm ready to when.
Oh, thank you,
when-
thank you,
when-
thank you,
when
thank you,
When
thank
the
you.
time is right.
Thank you, right. It was,
Mr. Miller,
Sir.
please proceed.
The required expertise seems sufficiently vague, but there could be people arguably qualified, and yet I think what we're really searching for is something beyond what is actually literally described, which would include those Oberlin history professors. I think that there seems to be a sentiment that being a citizen, being a resident, isn't really sufficient to have your opinion count in terms of landmark. I sort of feel that when I was on the Landmark Commission, I was sort of invited off the Landmark Commission in a little tete-a-tete over the house in front of the library because I was supportive of the library's concerted effort to try to clear their property of that house. It looks very nice now. It's cleaned up. They've removed the paint and sort of reestablished that to look like a historic residence. But just as a resident of the city with historic sensibilities, I didn't necessarily see that as something that needed to be saved, and kind of feel like my lack of historic understanding was not deemed appropriate to be a landmark member. That's my comment in response to
We
Mr.
did,
Whalen's-
it was saved, and it is now rehabbed,
Yeah.
without any architects on board.
If we're going to talk at the table,
Sorry.
please ask for permission.
I have a
Right.
question. Oh, through you, Mr. Chairman. This
Ms. Castillo.
Excuse me, thank you. This is for staff per Connor's comment. Has staff exhausted all options for looking for local talent that would be pertinent and have the expertise needed? I understand the incentive or the appeal of having people from other places bringing in their expertise, especially with years of experience and things like that. I do see how that would be beneficial to the Landmark Commission, but I also understand where Connor is, what Connor is getting at with regard to finding local talent and giving the citizens here the opportunity to have the largest impact with regard to the commission. So I just wondered how we went about deciding that maybe we want to open it up to people who don't live in the city, outside of you just meeting people that you know would be, a good fit and would contribute in a positive way.
We were acting on a motion and a unanimous vote from Landmarks Commission to
Okay.
direct us to
To
do the
move forward.
research, to change the board membership to allow up to 2 non-residents.
So I guess you can infer that they kind of exhausted their options with regard to finding those people to make that decision then to move forward with opening up the candidate pool then. I mean, is that a safe assumption to make? They wouldn't decide to open it up, I don't think, if they, I'm just trying to
it didn't,
see
my
what their
understanding-
incentive was.
Fair.
If, like Connor says, I'm not familiar with how many architects or
Yeah.
engineers we have that are top tier and experienced. I'm sure there are some, I'm just not familiar. So I just wanted to know, is it because these people don't exist, even though or is it just, let's just see what we can do, diversify, I guess, the commission?
Mr. Whalen?
And if you don't have an answer to
Oh,
that,
no,
it's,
my understanding
Yeah,
is,
but he had asked. Are you
No,
done,
no,
Ms. Cassidy?
everybody hasn't spoken yet. He's already spoken.
I was waiting on Ms. Blair's
The
response.
only one that hasn't spoken is me. And
Jackson spoke.
that's a good
Sorry.
segue into, I'll weigh in after Mr. Jackson. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, you brought up a good point.
Wait, could she
When-
answer my
Oh, okay, I'm
question?
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead, go ahead.
I'm getting interrupted here, and so go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you were speaking. You started to say something. If not, then, okay.
yeah, I don't know that there's a way to define whether we found, what's enough outreach or what that looks like.
Yeah.
I think the sentiment is that someone with specific passion, expertise in historic preservation that has that,
Ties here.
the experience and that discipline would be the most valuable, and that we haven't been finding that.
Well, that's what,
within this.
okay, that answers, that's what I was getting at is, are we just not finding those people, locally that we think, okay, it would be safe to open it up? And in that same breath, sorry, would it maybe be a compromise to have one person allowed to live outside the city, or is that just,
It's the
so that majority of the
Planning
impact is?
Commission is the authority of making a recommendation to City Commission.
Okay.
So Landmarks is an advisory recommendation to you, but Planning Commission is the body that makes recommendations to City Commission about changes to our zoning code.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, you brought up a good point when on my last question, you were saying that there's rules about, you used the fact of putting in vinyl siding on a home. Well, if there's already established rules about what can be done and what can't be done, do you really need an architect to add to that if there's already established rules about what can be done and what can't be done on a historic home?
One example I would give is when Mr. Rob Trucco was a commissioner. He is an architect with a passion in historic preservation, which he asked very specific questions about how signage was getting affixed to the building, the old winery building at Clubhouse Number 3, and the way that they had designed the signage above the doorway, and whether that was gonna allow water behind it and degrade the doorway over time. There were technical questions that I would have never thought of, that I saw a lot of value in. And I noticed when he resigned from the commission, those questions were missing, and something that I wasn't hearing as a staff member, things that we don't have expertise in, that was very valuable to have at the table.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Zuloff, and did you want to speak, Mr. Whalen?
Well, I spoke
Be
before
next,
him
and
last.
and then I'm going to speak, and then we're going to take a vote.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, to the point, and I don't want to debate Mr. Miller, Mr. Chairman, but I was also on that on that landmark commission, and I was also kind of
Disinvited?
uninvited. Well, I was not renewed. My term was not renewed, and I fully understand because we were on multiple commissions, and there were also people chomping at the bit. And point of fact, I was in I was in favor of preserving that same house, so I don't know how you can read anybody's mind, but just point of fact, you weren't invited off over that issue because we were on opposite sides and we both got the same uninvitations. Okay, all right, so, but nevertheless, I think it's actually a pretty good example of something that should have been saved and would have been a loss had we not had a landmark commission. To Mr. Jackson's point, which Mr. Jackson is, Mr. Chairman, is suggesting, he's talking about the validity of, really not of whether it should be someone from outside the area, but whether we should have a landmark commission at all. We're talking about if we already have a code that defines what sort of siding you have. Well, why do we need this? It's a fair point, but the question before us is not whether we should have a landmark commission or whether we need a landmark commission. The question is, do we need the expertise from outside, or will it be a better board with, if we can reach outside the community in a limited way or not, right? And I think my opinion is it clearly is. I'm definitely in favor of this. So there was one other point too, and I kind of lost it. We've had the debate as to whether we should have a landmark commission at all, and I would ask everyone to consider, don't let this be about whether we need a landmark commission. Let it be, will it be better decisions? It's not the argument that it's a citizen board, therefore it shouldn't, it's by definition not a citizen board. It's partially a citizen board because we allow non-citizens to be on it, so it's no longer a citizen board. The question is it wise or unwise, or does it lead to better decisions if we allow some limited participation where it benefits us? Now, by the way, this does not require that we go outside the community. It's up to the city commission to appoint these members. So if they think, if the city commission, all this does is allow the city commission, if they identify someone who would make the board better and do the job better and make the landmark commission more effective by reaching out in a limited way up to 2 people from outside the community. That's all this does, is it unties the city commission's hands and allows them 2 members from outside the community if they think it's better. So it doesn't assure that you're going to have people from outside, it just allows it. Why not allow the city commission to decide that? They're elected officials after all.
Thank you, Mr. Zuloff. Mr. Whalen?
I do know Rob Truca, and he's a good architect and passionate about buildings. But I'm sure that sign had a paid architect whose job it was to preserve that building and work for the client who owns that building as well. And I really am just surprised to hear that we might vote to have, to me, we're better served by people who live here and are invested here with or without the expertise which you fulfill, right? Are you on the board?
Lamer?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, you fulfill what we need here. And I'm not trying to sign you up for more jobs here. Ali, I know you're busy enough, but there are enough people. I think we need to exhaust those local resources. I can't see any benefit in needing to go outside. It just takes the voice away from Sandusky residents.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Castile, and then we're done. I'm going to speak and we're done.
I just had a question just off of what Mr. Zuloff said. So if there were 2 candidates qualified, would the local candidate kind of take favor over the non-resident, I guess?
Yes.
So I thought that was a good point to make, that it doesn't have to, we don't have to have 2 outsiders. They can if we can't meet those needs within the local community. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And Landmarks Commission specifically wanted the ordinance to say that preference would be given to citizens of the city.
Okay, I see it right here. Thank you.
One more really quick one.
Real quick.
I mean, I kind of had debate that they would get preference because appointments happen behind closed doors. Those are not done publicly. Those are done by commissioners privately. They only possibly know who appointed who is if you were appointed by that person and you told others. So it's not, it goes to who is appointed. There's really no preference process
You
other
do
than
have to fill out
the
an
person
application.
appointing.
That's not a fact.
They would appoint with
All right, all right.
Mr. Chairman,
all right,
that's not a fact.
Discussion's done. So I'm.
You're not being even-handed here.
Mr.
You-
Zuloff.
you said it was done, then you allowed him to talk, and you-
Well, it's done. I'm going to speak, and then I'll call for a vote, okay? So
A point of order.
I took point of order, we're moving on. I took the liberty of looking at these Landmark Commission minutes. Did you look at them, Mr. Zuloff?
Yes.
Does it, did I see in here where it says by statute that these people, if available, these are the people that the preference should be for?
Are you talking about the certified local government?
I'm talking about the representation, architect, history, planning.
Yes. So in order for our community to have any projects that could apply for state or federal historic preservation tax credits, we have to be a certified local government through the State Historic Preservation Office and have a landmarks ordinance. Our landmarks ordinance must contain the language about the disciplines in it.
Okay. And is it true that what Mr. Whalen said, that there aren't any architects living in the city, or there are qualified people in the city that we just haven't tapped into?
I have asked a number of architects if any of them live in the city and if they know any other architects in the city, and have not found any in the past year. That doesn't mean, I certainly haven't talked to everyone in the city.
Okay. I do know that on other commissions and boards, we're having a tough time finding people, local people. There are times where the Board of Zoning Appeals can't even get a quorum for a couple of months at a time. So that's a concern. I don't have a problem with this. The only issue I have, or the only question I have, is the substantial connection to the city. How do you define that? To me, that seems like it could be open to a lot of debate. What you might think is a substantial connection, I might say, no, it's not.
Well, that would be up to the commission to determine when they make the appointment.
All right. And then as far as what Mr. Whalen's saying about people living here, well, I guess in my mind, if you have a business or if you've got a property here, you're paying taxes. So you do have a connection. You are part of the fiber of the community. You may not have your residential building here, but you do have an interest in the community. And last but not least, I would think that maybe, I don't want to throw a wrench into things, but maybe we would consider saying you have to live in Erie County. So we don't get into a situation where there's somebody that lives in Cleveland, they're highly qualified, and we bring them in, but they live in Cleveland. If we limit it to Erie County residents, it would cover Milan, it would cover Vermillion, it would cover Huron, it would cover Perkins. I think there's plenty of architects and engineers and people like that would be available. So those are my comments, and with those comments, I'll call for a vote. Oh,
Need a motion.
Motion.
I'll call for a motion.
I would,
Motion to approve,
No.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion.
Okay.
I think,
Well,
Go
it's
ahead.
not who spoke first, it's who you
Okay,
recognize
go ahead.
first.
Mr. Zuloff?
I would, I would defer.
Mr. Zuloff defers to you, Mr. Whalen.
well, I think he's counting on me to make a motion, and I was just hoping whoever was going to do it would reduce it to one and make it be an architect only. If this is all about having an architect, I don't really see how a planner or a history professor or a archaeologist necessarily help this out, and I would hope that if, I don't want to make a motion to approve it, I'll make a motion to reject it.
Make it.
I would make a motion that we recommend against having non-citizens on Citizens Board to the City Commission.
Is there a second? Motion dies from lack of a second.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Zuloff.
I would like to make the motion that we recommend for the changes.
It's been moved to recommend further changes by Mr. Zuloff. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Mr. Miller. Ms. Rambo, would you, any discussion, any further discussion? Ms. Rambo, would you call the roll, please?
Connor Whalen?
No.
Jade Castile?
Yes.
Mike Zuloff?
Yes.
Jim Jackson?
Yes.
Steve Pajali?
Yes,
David Miller?
Yes.
motion passes. Okay, thank you.
I don't understand how you feel.
We all did.
We'll move. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Or before we adjourn, should we have Mr. Zuloff always ask for updates? Are there any updates?
I didn't prepare updates today, but I'll mention, I'm out on Columbus Avenue a lot. You'll see a lot of work happening there. The sidewalk is getting poured for City Hall tomorrow. We're going to start seeing trees coming in and the dirt filling up the tree wells. There's going to be curb coming in on the east side soon. So the project is running on time, on schedule, and it's really exciting to see those changes come about.
Do you know when they're going to pave the street?
I don't know when the paving is coming on the other side. They have the first round of pavement on the west right now, which is the driving surface, but that'll actually get a little bit more. And I'm not sure what the timing is. If you want those updates, Megan Stuckey sends out really comprehensive updates, and she can get you on her list if you'd like. I can add your email to it.
And it should be noted that the city building will be closed tomorrow because they'll be
Yes.
pouring the sidewalk in front.
City building is closed to the public tomorrow, Thursday, April 24th, and staff will be here in the building and available by phone.
Thank you, Ms. Blair.
date this will all be finished?
If there's no other discussion, motion to adjourn,
Just do it.
we stand adjourned. Good debate.